Hello, Mary Mead. So, I wanted to discuss the difference between pagan and neo-pagan, and also go a little bit into the concept of what the word pagan means and how to use it, because these words are being thrown around like confetti within the occult pagan, neo-pagan community. And yeah, first of all, pagan can mean a lot of things, different things to different people, and as such, yeah, dictionary-wise, pagan can mean several things. Originally, if I'm not completely mistaken, it simply means somebody who lives on the countryside. However, the most common use when you look at various dictionaries today is somebody who are follower of a polytheistic religion that are not one of the major ones. As such, for example, Hindus will not be considered pagans because they are one of the big religions, while, for example, voodoo practitioners would be. However, the definition do vary. Some people consider anybody who have a polytheistic view to be pagan. Of course, then that would exclude people who have a very nature-based religion but are monotheistic. And others will say that anybody who has a religious view that are not Abrahamic, as in are not Christians, Muslims, or Jews, are pagan. So there's a lot of different opinions on this. In the difference, there's a very big difference between pagan, as in the old religions of antiquity and the early Middle Ages, and pagan as in neo-pagan. So, first I should probably say what I think about the word. For me, pagan means some sort of nature religion. It doesn't really matter how many gods you worship. Or basically, what is the point of it is that nature to some sort of degree are involved in it. Of course, this is just a personal definition with the word. There are a lot of, like I said, definitions of it. So, one problem with just throwing pagan and neo-pagan around, and I do that myself, so I'm not gonna sit here and act all high and mighty, is that it creates some confusion. One of the confusions are this: what people then sort of think that they are doing about the same as people in Rome and in Greece and in Egypt and such did. And no, because I mean, those were religions that were deeply held in society. They had very much exactly the same position in society as Christianity had in their society, or had, or more like what it had in the Renaissance. And also, while some neo-pagan groups and religions have borrowed a bit from the religions of antiquity and the early Middle Ages, it's definitely a new creation. And that's where the word neo comes into the picture. It's neo-pagan as in new paganism. Now, there were people that would fit into this category before, but the movement really took speed when Garrett Gardner started to publish things about Wicca. So, in a way, Wicca becomes the poster child for the neo-paganist movement. And generally what this is 1/3 ideas from various ancient cultures, 1/3 ideas from ritual magic, and one third completely new ideas. And then you stir that around and come up with something very new. The problem is that sort of when you just use the word pagan willy-nilly, we sort of feel that no, we are doing the same as these people in ancient cultures did. So our culture is so old and so on and so forth that it might share the word, but isn't the same religion. Now, another thing that one have to be aware of is that some groups get offended by being called pagan. Now, personally, I think being offended by something like that is rather silly, because even if you personally don't feel that your religion fits into the pagan category, there's nothing negative about the word pagan as such. It can be negative when a Christian use it, and one of the terms they have for it, that I saw in one of the dictionaries when I did research for the video, was that it meant hedonist. So yeah, I can get they have a negative connotation, but when a pagan use it, they generally mean follower of a nature religion. And so, but I know that there are quite a few who, for example, are shamans of various groups, and those that are Samic shamans, Native American shamans, and so on, that gets offended if somebody uses the term pagan. Though, I mean, by a lot of the definitions of the word, it would fit. I'm just tossing that out there because you should be aware of that not everybody would appreciate being called so. So, what sort of differentiates neo-paganism from basically older forms of paganism? Well, first of all, neo-paganism is an umbrella term. It means all of the various neo-pagan movements. So pagan is also an umbrella term, and neo-paganism fits within the greater umbrella term of paganism. But that doesn't mean it's exactly the same. Let me try to explain it some way. If I look at monotheism, believing in one God, basically my mother is a theist. She isn't a Christian, she doesn't belong to any particular religious order. And I mean, she's definitely a new ager. She believes in angels, she believes in... But she's also a monotheist, because she believes there's one divine energy, a spirit, that has created us, and that is a good force that watches over us and wants everything well for us. So that's monotheism. Devout Catholic are also a monotheist. And those that practiced one of the earliest forms of monotheism that you were found in some areas of Egypt during a short time period there, were also monotheists. You cannot say that they are that all of these people are practicing the same religion, because the only thing they really have in common is the belief that there's one God and not many. And yeah, so really I feel that while you can use the terms and throw them about, you should also know that being neo-pagan today is not the same as being a practitioner of the Greek-Roman religion. I mean, there are people who are reconstructionalists. I know a few who are also true reconstructionists, and a few who are a Greek-Roman reconstructionists. And I would not call these neo-pagans. Of course, there's some new things within their religion as well, because we don't know everything that went into the practice of these ancient religions. And quite a few of the practices has to be adjusted somewhat to fit with modern life. Like one Greek reconstructionist I know said that she doesn't have a whole village to join her in a sacrificial ritual to sacrifice a bull to please the gods. She has to make do. So, but that is more like you have an old painting and you have to restore it, and you might not know every of the painting techniques that the old artists used, and we don't have the old paints, and so we have to make do with some modern variations, but we still try to make it as authentic as possible. Neo-paganism is more like you take that old painting and it's complete, and you just shred it up to confetti, and you use that confetti to make something else. I know that sounds terrible, but that's not what I mean. I mean, basically, it's yeah. And so, do this video mean that I'm against using the term pagan? No, no, I use the term pagan all the time. But I think that it is a word we have to use with some awareness of what it means and what it doesn't mean. I mean, when somebody asks me, what religion are you? I might go into detail and say that, well, I am a chaot who has a main paradigm of Wicca-style neo-paganism. But most people aren't interested to sit through the whole explanation of that. But there's a good chance they have heard the word pagan, so I generally then say, I'm a pagan, I'm a neo-pagan. And that's completely fine. However, we have to also be aware that the word pagan can have a lot of different meanings, and that even if we use the term pagan about ourselves, and the term pagan is also used about followers of the Greek or Roman religions, the ancient Egyptians, the Vikings, and the ancient Celts, and so on and so forth, it isn't the same concepts, though there are some similarities. We do all fit into the huge pagan umbrella, but what we do is very different. So, yeah. And I also think that we have to be somewhat careful about who we just toss the word pagan about. Because, I mean, if somebody don't want that word used about them, I don't really see a reason to use it. I mean, by my definition of what a pagan religion is, somebody who is practicing shamanism would definitely fit within it. But I would be very careful about calling it paganism because so many who are practitioners of that spiritual branch take offense at it. And I don't see a reason to make offense when there's nothing to gain from it. Another thing that I find a little bit odd, that is how people have a tendency to be, they want to have a clear difference between New Age and paganism. But really here too there's very floating lines. There are things that I would say are definitely more New Agey, like for example super fifth dimension quantum healing. We are talking New Age. But there's a lot of floating ideas. And if, for example, somebody talks with angels, and no, angels you can find in so many different religions, so it's not just a Christian thing. If somebody talks with angels, suddenly they're a New Ager and they somehow don't have the right to call themselves pagan, even if everything else they do is based on neo-paganism. I don't feel that that is right. Also, I don't feel it's right to basically look down at New Age as something lesser. I mean, they are all very floating lines there. I mean, I know somebody who is halfway, I could say, an Egyptian reconstructionist, she refers to herself as a neo-pagan because while she do know a lot about ancient Egyptian history and try to be relatively authentic, she isn't as authentic as somebody who's a reconstructionist, so it's more added from modern ideas. So she's more neo-pagan sort of, so it's floating degrees here. So yeah, I just wanted to do a quick video, rather rambly one it seems, about some of the differences between paganism, neo-paganism, and how these terms are used and what they mean. Because really they can mean so many things. To a Christian, it means anybody who aren't Christian, or at least who aren't Abrahamic. While really, originally it just means somebody who lives on the countryside, a follower of an old religion. It, it's a very loosely defined term, and when we throw about a loosely defined term, we have to be somewhat careful, because when a term is not very well defined, those we speak with might have a very different idea about what that term is. And at the same time, we should be somewhat careful when we accept communication about a very loosely defined term, because it might mean something else to the person we are talking with. Therefore, I generally prefer the term neo-pagan about the modern pagan movement to differentiate it from the pagan religions of the past. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't have a lot to learn from the pagan religions of the past, and I definitely think that if you are a neo-pagan, you should study ancient religions. But there's still a very big difference between what we do as neo-pagans today and what, for example, a Roman housewife did over 2000 years ago. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. Hope it wasn't too rambly. Have a great day and blessed be.